Imagine this: you're standing at the edge of a relationship, the subtle tremor of expectation and longing humming beneath your skin, and yet, something within you refuses to bend. There is a language here that most men cannot hear, a silent code woven from stillness, absence, and the quiet authority of self-possession. It is the language of feminine detachment, a force both terrifying and magnetic, an echo of the unconscious that calls to the deepest parts of the male psyche. She does not speak in words, not in pleads or arguments, not in the desperate cadence of approval-seeking. Her power is in the spaces she leaves, in the unclaimed air between her presence and her disappearance. And this, above all, is misunderstood. Many mistake detachment for apathy, but it is far more precise, far more dangerous. It is the knowing that life does not revolve around validation, that attraction is born not of pursuit, but of autonomy, of self-respect anchored in the bedrock of the soul. Carl Jung wrote of the animus and anima as reflections of the unconscious, as archetypal patterns that mold the dance of desire, attachment, and projection. When a woman embodies her anima fully, she becomes a mirror to the male unconscious, a reflection of his own shadow, of the parts he refuses to see, to confront. He may feel compelled, mesmerized, even unsettled. Her detachment is a crucible. It exposes the unintegrated fragments of his psyche, forces him to reckon with the hollows he keeps hidden beneath charm and bravado. The more he reaches with need, the more she recedes, and in that tension, his awareness grows. She does not punish. She simply exists beyond the orbit of his demands, illuminating the gap between ego-driven desire and true recognition. Observe the subtleties, the shift in tone when she speaks, the fleeting gaze that does not linger for permission, the soft yet unyielding boundary that separates her needs from yours. She is a vessel of internal fullness, drawing from a wellspring of self-understanding that predates attraction and defies the transactional scripts of conventional relationships. You may notice how your presence feels scrutinized, not for judgment, but for authenticity. It is unsettling, because it calls into question everything you believe about control, influence, and the assumed power of pursuit. And yet, if you lean too heavily, if your shadow projects too many unresolved fears onto her, she will vanish in a silence more eloquent than any protest. This detachment is not born of disdain, it is the child of deep self-knowledge. It is cultivated through shadow work, through the willingness to sit with one's own fears and limitations without projecting them onto others. She knows her value is not external, not conditional, not dependent on admiration or attention. When she withholds, she does so not to manipulate, but to honor the sanctity of her inner life. Each withdrawal is an unspoken lesson in autonomy, that true connection must emerge from mutual fullness, not from need or deficiency. She challenges the stoic equilibrium within you, forcing recognition that the only realm one can truly govern is the self. Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, their ancient voices whisper through her stillness, reminding that desire, when tethered to insecurity, corrodes both love and freedom. And herein lies the paradox that makes her irresistible. Men sense the absence of grasping, and it ignites a silent urgency. The unconscious responds to wholeness, to mystery, to a being who does not capitulate to egoic appetites. Her detachment is the magnetism of the unknowable. Her presence is a lesson in restraint and reverence. This is why he may find himself thinking obsessively of her, analyzing each word, each gesture, as though in deciphering her, he might reclaim some fragment of her autonomy for himself. But autonomy cannot be possessed. It can only be witnessed, respected, and if earned, reciprocated. Yet, detachment is not a shield from emotion. It is the embodiment of emotion refined. She feels profoundly, fiercely, but without allowing her inner equilibrium to be dictated by another's whims. She is the woman who experiences love as an extension of herself, not a tether. In her silence, you might hear a voice, the voice of your own shadow, demanding explanation, craving certainty, seeking control. She does not offer it. She offers instead a mirror, and if you dare to look, you see the ways your neediness, your fear, your unresolved pain have shaped the way you approach intimacy. She is a crucible in which the unexamined ego confronts its limitations. There is power here, transformative and terrifying. You may feel repelled and drawn simultaneously, the oscillation revealing the deep Jungian truth. Attraction is not merely physical, it is psychic. The woman who practices detachment ignites the latent alchemy of the male psyche, evoking both confrontation and transformation. You are forced to ask, what do I seek in her? Is it control, validation, possession? Or is it communion with a force that mirrors the best version of myself, aware, unafraid, sovereign? Her detachment is a challenge, a riddle, a catalyst. And the most potent lesson she imparts is silent. Autonomy is irresistible. Self-possession is the language of power. She moves through the world with a fluid certainty, as if her steps are guided not by expectation but by a deep inner compass. Every interaction becomes a subtle test of projection, every glance a reflection of what others carry unresolved. Men often mistake this poise for aloofness, failing to recognize the profound work that underpins it, the painstaking reconciliation of shadow and light, the courageous confrontation with every fragment of fear, every lingering wound that whispers for external reassurance. In her there is no pleading, no need to assert worth. She embodies the archetype of the self fully integrated, a rare, luminous presence that does not negotiate for attention because her attention is already fully her own. Observe how she engages with desire. She is not a vessel of scarcity, grasping for affirmation or attempting to fill voids in others. Instead, her attraction radiates from a profound internal abundance. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming whole, of aligning one's conscious and unconscious selves so that the individual moves through the world with both vulnerability and invincibility. She has faced the dark corridors of her psyche, confronted the impulses she once denied, and emerged not hardened but illuminated. It is here, in this equilibrium, that detachment becomes not absence but magnetic presence, a force that draws, not through pursuit, but through integrity, depth, and a refusal to be diminished. Consider the psychological effect this has on men. Many are unconsciously conditioned to pursue what flees, to chase what is not freely offered. In the mirror of her detachment, they encounter their own projections, the fear of inadequacy, the shadow of neediness, the compulsion to dominate or manipulate in the name of desire. Her silence forces recognition. Each unreturned message, each gentle boundary, is a lesson in the art of self-possession. He may feel a flicker of confusion, even frustration, but beneath it is awe, an acknowledgement of a power that does not bend for him. And in that awe, something shifts. He is invited, whether consciously or not, to meet her in truth, to shed the layers of ego that obscure his own wholeness. She teaches without words. Her detachment is a form of psychological invitation, a call to awaken. The man who truly perceives her understands that any attempt to control or coerce is futile. His influence is only possible through resonance with her integrity, alignment with her inner freedom. Stoicism whispers here as well, the wisdom that we govern only ourselves, that external conditions cannot command the spirit. Her detachment embodies this principle organically. She does not react to the whims of desire or the turbulence of attachment. She moves from a place of internal mastery, and in doing so, she transforms the dynamic entirely. Yet, the danger for many men is immediate and unconscious. They mistake this detachment for rejection and attempt to fill the void with insistence, arguments, or attempts to possess. Here is where the profound challenge of feminine power emerges. The unconscious is drawn to wholeness, but the ego hungers for control. In resisting the ego's impulse to dominate her presence, she forces an encounter with truth. He may begin to understand, in the quiet of reflection, that attraction is not obligation, that connection cannot be compelled, and that the deepest desire stirs only in the presence of freedom. Her detachment, therefore, is both a mirror and a crucible, illuminating the path from insecurity to conscious desire, from fragmented projection to authentic recognition. She does not move in haste, for time is her ally, and patience her instrument. The moments of pause, the measured absence, create tension that is electric, charged with the psychic energy of autonomy. In this space, men confront themselves, their shadows, their illusions, their unmet needs. Jung observed that the unconscious speaks in symbols, and here, she is the symbol of self-containment, of the alchemy of desire that flows only when egoic clamor is quieted. You may notice that the more she refuses to be consumed by your wants, the more your own longing becomes introspective, turning you inward toward your unacknowledged depths. And this is the paradoxical beauty of feminine detachment. It is not coldness, nor is it cruelty. It is a sacred preservation of self, a refusal to surrender wholeness for the sake of someone else's temporary comfort. She feels intensely, yet without attachment to outcomes. She loves deeply, yet without a need to possess. Every gesture of retreat is an affirmation of self-worth, every refusal a declaration that love and attention are not bargaining chips. In witnessing her, you may begin to recognize the ways you have sought value externally, the times you have compromised essence for the illusion of closeness. Her detachment becomes a teacher of inner sovereignty, showing that attraction aligned with freedom is more profound than desire born of need. She is both shadow and light, both muse and mirror. She is the one who compels introspection, who evokes transformation, who embodies the tension between longing and liberation. And in this delicate balance, she demonstrates a truth that echoes across time and psyche. Power is not in possession, but in presence, in freedom, not submission, in awareness, not demand. She has learned that the unconscious responds not to chasing, but to witnessing, not to pleading, but to sovereign being. And those who are willing to learn from her discover that the path to authentic connection is first a journey inward, toward the parts of themselves they have long avoided. Her presence lingers in ways that are felt more than seen, a subtle vibration that resonates with the unspoken chambers of the male unconscious. It is in the quiet withdrawal, the withheld affirmation, the deliberate refusal to cater to the ego's demands, that her power is most vividly expressed. A man senses it immediately, though he cannot name it, a tension that stirs unease, curiosity, and desire all at once. He may try to rationalize it, to explain it away with words, but words fail before the psychic gravity of her autonomy. Jungian psychology teaches us that such forces bypass conscious cognition and speak directly to the archetypal layers of the mind. She is the embodiment of the feminine self, complete, luminous, untouchable by the ego's compulsions. And in her reflection, he confronts the dissonance between who he believes he is and who he has yet to integrate. Detachment, in her, is not absence. It is an active engagement with her inner life, a constant reaffirmation of boundaries and personal sovereignty. She inhabits her emotions fully, yet without dependency. Her love is not transactional. It is a flowing, conscious energy that moves freely because it is grounded in self-possession. When a man encounters her, he faces a mirror of his own incompleteness, and this is what makes her both alluring and terrifying. She compels introspection, forcing him to ask, "What do I truly seek? Do I desire her, or the reflection of my own unacknowledged needs?" Her silence is an oracle, her gaze a vector of insight, her stillness a crucible for the ego. In the tension she creates, he is invited to rise beyond superficial desire toward authentic connection. The unconscious mind, ever attuned to pattern and resonance, recognizes the signals of her sovereignty. Here lies the secret language of feminine detachment. It is spoken through absence, through selective engagement, through the measured withholding of what is most sought. Each refusal is a psychological invitation, a test of awareness, a prompt to transcend reactive attachment. Those who approach her with projection, insecurity, or need will encounter resistance. Those who come aligned with authenticity, self-knowledge, and emotional maturity will find resonance. Detachment, therefore, is not merely a strategy. It is a living expression of individuation. It embodies the lesson that attraction is not earned through chasing, but through alignment, through the integration of shadow, and through the demonstration of inner wholeness. Her mastery over detachment does not mean she is immune to emotion. She feels deeply, but she does not allow her feelings to dictate her choices or compromise her essence. She has learned that power lies not in reaction, but in observation, not in possession, but in presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we are disturbed not by events, but by the judgments we form about them. She enacts this philosophy effortlessly. When slighted, ignored, or misunderstood, she does not collapse into grievance or desperation. Instead, she observes, reflects, and acts from a place of measured self-possession. This equilibrium is magnetic. Men who encounter it often find themselves captivated by the paradox of her autonomy. The more she offers without clinging, the more they are drawn, compelled not to dominate but to align. Detachment, in her, is a mirror of courage. It requires confronting the fear of being alone, of being unseen, of being unvalidated. She has walked through the shadows of dependency and desire and emerged anchored in the realization that external approval is fleeting, while internal sovereignty endures. This courage is contagious, though often unrecognized consciously. In her orbit, men are challenged to meet themselves fully, to reconcile the parts they have hidden from view, and to reckon with the egoic illusions they have carried into relationships. She is not a puzzle to be solved, nor a conquest to be claimed. She is an archetype, a force of psychological gravity, an invitation to individuation. And yet, her detachment carries tenderness, a paradox of strength and intimacy. She offers connection, but only to those who approach with genuine presence. The ones who bring projection, manipulation, or need are met with a calm, unyielding boundary. In this, she teaches the value of discernment, that love is not a right, but a privilege, and that it is most profound when freely given and consciously received. Through her, men learn that attraction aligned with authenticity is infinitely more potent than any conquest born of compulsion. Her autonomy becomes a silent lesson in the art of relational equilibrium, that the most profound bonds are forged not in dependency, but in mutual recognition of inner wholeness. The dance of detachment is subtle yet relentless. Each gesture, each choice, each silent pause is a brushstroke on the canvas of psyche. She is simultaneously muse and mirror, invoking reflection, transformation, and awareness in those who encounter her. Jung observed that the unconscious communicates through symbols, and here she is the symbol of self-possession, of emotional alchemy, of the sacred balance between desire and freedom. Her detachment is a declaration. She will not dilute herself to satisfy another's ego. She will not abandon her wholeness for the fleeting comfort of being wanted. And it is precisely in this fidelity to self that she radiates irresistible power, the kind that penetrates beyond the superficial, touching the deepest layers of the human psyche. She moves through life like a quiet storm, imperceptible yet profoundly felt. Every choice she makes, every boundary she enforces, is a statement of self-respect, a refusal to negotiate the integrity of her inner world for transient approval. Men who encounter her sense the gravitational pull of this power, not coercive, not demanding, but inherent, undeniable, like the steady pulse of the tide. Her detachment is not a weapon, it is a revelation. It is the living proof that a woman can love without surrendering, desire without clinging, and exist without being defined by another's perception. The unconscious registers this instantly. Here is someone who is whole, unfragmented, sovereign. And in the echo of that recognition, the psyche stirs, longing for communion not with need, but with presence. She has cultivated this detachment through the rigorous work of individuation, confronting every hidden fear, every shadowy impulse that seeks external validation. Jung spoke of the transformative power of facing the unconscious, of integrating the darker aspects of the psyche. She embodies this fully. She has wrestled with her own doubts, griefs, and insecurities, and she has emerged anchored in the certainty of her own worth. Her autonomy is an expression of that work, a lived philosophy. She does not flinch from solitude, because she knows that being alone is not loneliness but a crucible of self-knowledge. Her inner life is rich, vibrant, and complete, a sanctuary from which attraction arises organically, not from pursuit or desperation, but from the magnetic resonance of a soul fully realized. The impact on men is profound, often unconscious. He may attempt to chase, to decode, to secure her attention, yet the harder he grasps, the further he feels her presence recede. This is not rejection. It is the echo of a higher law of attraction, one that bypasses ego and touches essence. In her detachment, he confronts his own shadow, the neediness, the fear, the unresolved desire for control. He is compelled to introspect, to recalibrate his relationship with himself and with the nature of desire itself. She is a mirror and a teacher, and in the quiet of her absence, he encounters the reflection of his unexamined self. There is an undeniable elegance in the way she balances emotion and autonomy. She loves fiercely, yet without compromise. She engages fully, yet without surrender. Each interaction is measured, each gesture intentional, yet devoid of clinging. In this, she demonstrates the profound truth of Stoic philosophy, that our inner state is sovereign, impervious to external circumstance. Epictetus wrote that no external event can disturb the mind unless the mind consents. She lives this every day. Her detachment is not coldness. It is the mastery of self, the conscious choice to remain aligned with her own integrity rather than the dictates of desire or social expectation. For those willing to witness it, her detachment is a source of liberation. It teaches that love is not possession, that attention is not a currency to be earned, that validation is not found in another but in the deep, unshakable knowledge of one's own value. In her presence, men learn that true connection arises not from pursuit or control, but from resonance, authenticity, and mutual respect. She embodies the feminine principle in its most potent form, whole, autonomous, mysterious, and profoundly attractive in ways that defy calculation or manipulation. And there is a final transformative lesson here. Detachment is not a withdrawal from life or intimacy, but an embrace of freedom. She detaches not from love, but from need, not from connection, but from the compulsion to control outcomes. Her power lies in her refusal to bend, in her ability to observe without reacting, to feel without surrendering, and to exist without apology. In doing so, she demonstrates that the most magnetic force in any relationship is not desire tethered to ego, but desire born of wholeness, authenticity, and unshakable self-possession. In witnessing her, one realizes that the deepest longing is for a reflection of one's own completeness, and that the most profound attraction is awakened not through pursuit, but through presence. She is a living testament to the alchemy of the soul, a constant reminder that power, freedom, and love are inseparable when cultivated from within. The dance of detachment is not absence. It is the highest form of engagement, the silent conversation between two sovereign souls. And in that quiet, luminous space, one truth becomes undeniable. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.